Greetings, barbecue family. This is Kenyatta Robinson. Thank you for tuning in to the Backyard Smokemaster Barbecue channel. We're live. It's Wednesday evening, a little bit past 7 p.m. on the West Coast. Before we get started, basically today, just wanted to chit-chat about barbecue, just go through some questions, some answers, whatever topics are on you guys' mind. I'm open. But before we jump in, there was one thing that caught my attention this week. Lone Star Grillz this week announced a new smoker, and that caught my attention. Let me pull that up. Okay, so hopefully this is showing up on the screen share here. I'm trying to get my bearings together with all of this technology, but I don't know. Some of you may have seen this. They are coming out with a new offset smoker, and they're calling it their Texas edition. And I don't know if what we're seeing here on the website does it justice, but in the social media post that I saw, it really looks pretty cool. They're going to have two different models. So here they've got the 40-inch model that's going for $3,200, so it is pricey. And they have a 48-inch model that will be going for about $3,600. Let me just pull up some more here. 24 inches depth, 72 inches width, 72 inches height. The 48-inch model is 84 inches. Quarter-inch thick firebox. I kind of wonder, just from looking at it, let me pull up a few of the pictures that they have here, but just from looking at it, it kind of made me think, I wondered if this is their answer to Aaron Franklin's smoker, which also kind of has that unfinished look. And then even when I looked at this picture, if you look at the firebox, the intake there has got the vertical slits in it, which I think is kind of similar to the Aaron Franklin model. And I see here in their description, I saw something about how this stainless steel, or this finish here, they're calling it a raw metal finish for that traditional old school Texas patina look. And I saw somewhere where it said that it also it's good for seasoning with basically any type of food oil. I'm not seeing it now. When I first took a look at this, it did mention that. So I don't know, guys. If I had the money, I would probably spring for it, just because I do love LSG products. I think they do a great job with their stick burners, and this one has more of that traditional barrel look. And just some things about it. Like I said, it does make me wonder if it's an answer to the Aaron Franklin. Like I see where they've located the temperature gauge. It's off to the left there. Looks like it's probably lined up with one of the cooking racks. The firebox is also up higher off the ground. So I don't know all of the ins and outs of why that would be advantageous, but compared to like the model that I own, the 20 by 42, the firebox is definitely up higher. So pretty interesting to me, but just thought I would share that. We are now getting into the fall, so the weather has gotten a little bit cooler. And actually for me, I think that this is a perfect time to be out barbecuing. A lot of people say that the end of summer, Labor Day, marks the end of the barbecue season. I disagree. I think that we should be out there barbecuing year round. In fall, it is a nice time to be out doing that. So let me know, what are you guys focusing on? Have you tried any new recipes lately? Are you guys doing some tailgating, cooking anything for football? Is anyone out there tuning in from Facebook? I know that the YouTube, because I saw John's comment indicating that he was tuning in through YouTube. Is anyone joining through Facebook? Because we are live on Facebook, YouTube, also on Twitter, Twitch, even though I'm not really on those platforms as much. Oh, great. Angel is here tuning in from on Facebook. So that's good to see. How you doing, Angel? We've got Wayne. Wayne is also tuning in on Facebook. Okay, so it's good to know that it's working on both. All right, we got John says, looks like it has a smoke collector and inlet on the firebox. I wouldn't buy it without a normal firebox with griddle and lid. Okay, so John's talking about that Texas edition of the LSG smoker. It'll be interesting to see more information about it because it's quite a departure from both the 20-inch smokers that they put out a few years ago, as well as the more traditional pipe barrel smokers that they have out. So it'll be interesting. Like I said, this design is pretty different. And I am curious to learn what led them to design this particular model this way, because it's pretty different from what we've seen in the past. I'm sure there'll be some YouTube guys out there that have probably already ordered this thing and will get a video out. And usually Lone Star Grillz, they also typically make a video of their own where they give an overview. So I haven't checked to see if that overview video has come out yet, but that'll be interesting to see. Wayne says, no new cookers on the radar at the moment. I haven't been cooking outside as much this year. Why not? Is it because of the weather? Is there something else going on that's been keeping you from getting outside as much? I'm always looking at different smokers. I don't have any immediate plans to add anything new to the collection. It's always cool to see the new stuff that's coming out, especially right now. They say that with more people going back to the office or just getting back to more of a regular routine, I've been hearing that the market for new barbecue grills and smokers is not quite as robust as it was maybe say a year or two ago when everyone was getting settled into a new routine at home. So it is interesting that LSG is coming out with a new stick burner. They did come out with their pellet grill. I think that came out sometime last year, and that kind of fits the mode where you see just about all of the popular barbecue grill manufacturers coming out with pellet smokers, but to see them coming out with a new stick burner is pretty interesting. So Wayne says, the weather during the middle of the summer was super hot and humid here in southwest Missouri. That caused me to stay inside a lot. I can understand that. The part of the Bay Area that I live in is a little bit more inland, so I don't get the cooling off effect from the bay. So it gets pretty hot out here in the summertime. Not really humid, but there were some days where I was just like, no, I don't think I want to get out there and cook. So that's why a big reason why I am excited to see the temperatures start to come down in the fall. So I do plan to get out there more. Cost of meat has also put a damper on the outside cooking. I can't disagree with that either. I'm still amazed, even at Costco, like the cost of brisket is still like $4.50 a pound and up. I'd like to see it get back down to the like $3 range at least. It can be pretty prohibitive with the cost of meat, and of course that being impacted by issues with the different meat processing centers. We have definitely seen the cost of meat go up and not really return back to what I would consider to be like reasonable prices. I'm trying to think about different recipes to focus on, like tailgating food. Have you tried different tailgate type recipes. Like one thing I haven't tried yet, like the jalapeno poppers. That's something I need to get out there and give that a shot. Lollipop chicken drums would also be something that I probably need to get out there and try. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any go-to like tailgating football type food. What do you enjoy getting out on the grill? You want to spend your time watching the game, so ideally something you can complete, you can get out there and cook relatively quickly. It's not going to take too much time. And John says, I like the new Shirley offset workhorse 1975. Oh, okay. Now, see, haven't been familiar with that one. Shirley has been on my radar as well, so wouldn't mind. I'll have to get over and check that one out. I'm wondering what the prices look like and what the lead time is on that. Hello, Ahmad. Thank you for tuning in. Ahmad says, how are you? I'm waiting on my Lone Star 20x42 and was wondering, how does it cook in cooler temperatures? I'm not sure where you live. Oh, well, thanks for tuning in, Ahmad. I do own a 20x42 inch. I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, probably about 20 to 25 miles east of San Francisco. So it gets a little bit warmer where I am. It also gets a little bit cooler, especially in the wintertime where I am, than San Francisco, where it stays pretty mild. But in California, this part of California, I would say in the wintertime, we might get some temperatures that approach freezing, but we don't get many days below freezing. So it's pretty mild. But I would say also, knowing the 20x42 and how well that firebox is built, I don't think that you would have a lot of trouble being able to maintain good temperatures inside of that cooking chamber during cooler temperatures. It is really well built, well insulated. If that was a concern, I know that they do offer an option with the firebox that has a thicker steel. From what I understand, I don't think most people really have issues maintaining temperatures in cool weather with the LSG 20x42. Undecked Hydra says, ordered my stick burner primitive pit last October, expecting it this October, so hoping the warm weather holds. Wow, so you waited for a year. Is Primitive Pit, is that the name of the fabricator? I haven't heard of that one, but that's a pretty long time to have to wait, but that's not uncommon when you're dealing with steel, and especially depending on the size of the company and how quickly they're able to crank them out. I know that the lead time on the Shirleys can also be well over a year as well. But that's pretty exciting. Do you have experience with a stick burner? Is this your first one? I know for me personally, that was what I really wanted, was a stick burner. Once I got into barbecue and once I kind of got bit by that bug, I had a gas grill. I had a couple of charcoal-based grills and a pellet smoker. And then I was like, okay, I gotta move up to the stick burner, and that has definitely been a fun experience, a learning curve for sure, but it has been well worth the effort in learning how to control temperatures on a stick burner. And I still maintain that there's nothing to me more fun, more gratifying than smoking some good food on a stick burner. Hopefully you will enjoy your pit once it arrives. Wayne says, I like wings for tailgating. I use a Weber kettle with a Vortex accessory. This is a simple cook that takes 35 to 40 minutes with no flipping. Completely agree with you, Wayne. That is my favorite way to do wings, is with a Vortex. I typically use my Weber Summit Kamado. I use my Vortex, and I love just placing those wings around the outside perimeter of the Vortex. And the Vortex does a great job of focusing that heat and dispersing it pretty evenly on the inside of the kettle. I do tend to flip my wings about midway through the cook just because I like to get a more even color on both sides. But I don't know, Wayne, I haven't tried like not flipping them. So maybe you're getting an even color on both sides without having to flip. But that is definitely a great way to do wings with the Vortex. Vortex is one of my favorite Q accessories for sure. And Wayne says, I think that lead times for a Shirley is still around 30 months. Wow. So that's 2.5 years for the wait for a Shirley. And that was a factor for me when I was ready to pull the trigger on buying a stick burner, was the long lead time for Shirley versus the LSG. At the time that I ordered my LSG, it was probably maybe a month before they had announced the 20-inch smokers. So I had originally ordered, I believe it was the 24 by 40. And then they announced the 20 by 42. And because they were just announcing them and they already had some in the works, so the lead time was really short. So I jumped on that and didn't have any regrets. But surely if I were to buy another stick burner, Shirley would be a consideration. But wow, that lead time, that would give me some pause. And then Wayne says, my Weber setup is the only way I cook wings anymore. Likewise, for my Weber Summit Kamado, if I'm doing wings, and that's my go-to for doing wings. Before I got my Weber Summit Kamado, I was doing them on my Kamado Joe. But since I got the Summit Kamado with that Vortex, I mean, once you kind of nail down a process for a favorite, no need to really mess around with it too much. So that's similar for me. And then Undecked Hydra says, yes, Primitive Pits out of Georgia. Okay, this will be your first stick burner. What do you recommend for the first cook? Brisket, dino ribs? You can't go wrong with either of those things, but probably for a first cook, the most fail-safe food that I can think of, and this will give you plenty of time to really get to know your stick burner, I would say go with a pork butt. Pork butt, the price isn't bad. You can still get a pork butt relatively cheaply. You can probably get one that's not too big for no more than $20, whereas you're going to be paying, you're probably at least $45-50 for a small brisket. So I would say maybe go with a pork butt. It's a forgiving, huge piece of meat. Even if you kind of mess things up with the temperature, you can recover. I think I would go with a pork butt would probably be my choice for a first cook on a stick burner or on any smoker for that matter, because it'll give you, like I said, a lot of time, because it's going to take 6-7 hours at least, and that'll give you a lot of time to really kind of get to know how your stick burner is cooking, get to know how long a typical split will last before you have to put another split into that firebox. So it'll give you lots of opportunities. Okay, Wayne says, how open do you keep the top vent on your Summit Kamado when using your Vortex with it? I always wondered if it wouldn't do as well as a regular kettle with an offset top vent. On my Summit Kamado, when I'm using the Vortex, the first thing I focus on is the intake at the bottom. And I know for my wings, I'm trying to get my temperature around maybe 400 degrees. It'll probably drop to around 350 once I add those wings. So I do kind of open the intake at the bottom. I wish I had pictures to be able to show it, but probably like between the second and third, I don't even know what you call it, but there's the little round opening, little circles. I don't know what the right word is at the bottom of at the intake, but I open it about, I'm going to call them notches. So probably between 2 and 3 notches to make sure I'm getting some oxygen in. And there's like a little picture and it looks like it's the one that kind of shows air coming in. I get it around there. And then I probably start off with my exhaust up at the top vent, maybe around halfway. But I'll take a look. I'll go back and check after about 10 minutes to see how quickly is the temperature rising. Because I usually do mine with lump charcoal, which is going to cook hotter, give you hotter temperatures. If the temperature seems to be rising really quickly, then I'll start to close off that top vent to prevent it from getting too hot, temperature rising too fast. So kind of depending on that, the temperature is kind of going at a nice clip, then I might dial it back to maybe a quarter of the way open. And then, like I said, I'm trying to keep my temperature at least 350 degrees. So then I'll just make little micro adjustments as needed until I can dial it into the right temperature that I want. Hope that made sense, Wayne. All right, Undecked Hydra says, good idea on the pork butt. That makes sense. Thanks. Love the channel. Well, I appreciate that. Definitely keep tuning in. I'm going to try to do lives on a more regular basis, so don't be a stranger. Appreciate the support. Wayne says, I leave all vents 100% open on my kettle when using the Vortex. I have never checked what the internal temperature of the grill is. I usually always use briquettes in it. So that makes sense too. So I assume when you're talking about a kettle, you're talking about like a traditional Weber kettle. And then also with the briquettes, they're not going to cook as hot as what I'm using with the lump charcoal. So yeah, I think if I were using a kettle, I would take that same approach. And then I would just make adjustments as needed. I also don't, when I'm doing the wings, I don't worry about trying to get an exact temperature, the inside of the chamber. So when I say I'm looking for 350, I'm just going off of the built-in thermostat is what I'm looking at. I'm just using that as the gauge. And I find that a lot of the cooking that I do with my Summit Kamado, that's pretty much what I do. So I'm not really worried too much about, is it really exactly 350 degrees? I just use it as a gauge, and that has worked out really well. And it's mainly because the temperature, once you dial it in, it's not hard to keep it within the range that you really want with the Summit Kamado. Wayne says, thanks for that info. The Weber Summit Kamado is one cooker that I would like to own one day. I completely recommend the Summit Kamado. You may have heard me say a few times, the LSG, my stick burner, is my favorite to cook with, but I probably use my Summit Kamado more than anything else, especially for a charcoal-based cooker. It is my go-to. And it's just easy, especially after owning like a traditional kettle and having some experience with like drum smokers and a Kamado Joe ceramic smoker. My transition after picking up the Summit Kamado, really easy to learn, and it's easy to operate. So I definitely can recommend the Summit Kamado if that's something that you would think would be a good addition to your arsenal for sure. And then Wayne says, it's actually a Weber Performer with the table, but same as the regular kettle. Right. So yeah, and those are great. The Weber kettle, I mean, that's the iconic grill, very versatile, probably more accessories made for the Weber kettle than anything else out there. And of course, you have different variations of the kettle. The one that Wayne has is the Weber Performer. So it's the kettle with a built-in table. So that's great for convenience. And that's definitely a great kettle to have. If you're really just getting started cooking with charcoal, Weber kettle would be a great way to go. And again, you have different options for how much you want to spend. You can pick up just a traditional Weber kettle in that probably $150 to $250 range. And then if you want to spend a little bit more, get a performer with the built-in table. They also have the Weber Master Touch, which just is built, I think, to have more compatibility with many of those accessories that they have available. So just many different options with the Weber. Mark says, does reverse sear work for you, or do you use a different method to finish off steaks to get a nice crunchy texture? So yeah, reverse sear definitely is a great way to go about getting a nice steak. You get those nice sear marks that everyone likes to see. It's a great way to finish off your steaks. I also sometimes I like to just smoke my steaks. It takes a little bit longer. You're not going to get the sear marks. I love to just get my steaks on my LSG stick burner and let it absorb that smoke, and those turn out great as well. It's just a matter of preference. If you got a little bit more time, maybe just smoke it at 275 degrees until it reaches the internal temperature that you want. I think you get a nice tasting steak that's right in that same ballpark as going reverse sear. But either way, you get great results. Wayne says, I've heard a lot of people who own the Summit Kamado say that if they could only keep one of their cookers, it would be the Summit Kamado. I would concur with that, although that's a hard one. If I could only keep one, for me it would be a hard choice between the Summit Kamado and my stick burner. I'd be really hard pressed to give up my stick burner. But in terms of having one cooker that is versatile, right, that can do everything, that can smoke at low and slow temperatures, you can use for grilling at hot and fast, at high temperatures, the Summit Kamado can do it all. I guess if I were looking for one cooker to be the most versatile that I could keep, I would keep my Weber Summit Kamado. But yeah, I've got caveats. And then Wayne says, the Weber kettle is where I started my grilling adventure. I have to think about that. Actually, my first cooker was a Weber Smoky Mountain because I wanted to learn how to smoke ribs. My father-in-law was always bragging on his ribs. After doing some research at that time, the Smoky Mountain was what everyone was kind of recommending as a great thing to start with. And it definitely kicked off my adventure. And I regret that I ended up selling my Smoky Mountain at the time. I wasn't very good at managing and learning how to control the temperatures. It wasn't until a little bit later in my barbecue journey that I then began to appreciate the lessons that I learned from owning the Smoky Mountain. And I regret selling it. And if I do see one at a good price somewhere that's a used one, I'll probably snap one up just because I do think the Smoky Mountain's great. And I think after the Smoky Mountain, I got a gas grill, and then I got a Weber kettle. And the kettle, I since have added a couple of more kettles because they're just so versatile, easy to transport. And the gas grill has been in my garage for a few years, and I need to get rid of that gas grill. But that's another story that I won't get into because I don't want to offend the guys that are still cooking with gas. John says, you mentioned you had a Kamado Joe. What's your opinion now on Weber Summit charcoal? I still have my Kamado Joe, and Like I said, I use my Summit Kamado, which the original version was called the Weber Summit Charcoal. I use my Weber Summit much more than I use my Kamado Joe, but I'm hanging on to my Kamado Joe, and I really do. I like the company. I like that Kamado Joe, they're continuously innovating, adding accessories and different things to that product line. For me, the ability to, it's just a little bit easier to cook with the Weber Summit, but the Kamado Joe is also a great smoker to have. And of course, you have other ceramics like the Big Green Egg as well. Ceramic cookers are great as well. They're also very versatile. You can smoke low and slow. You can also grill things hot and fast. I'd say probably the biggest advantage that a Summit Kamado has over a ceramic cooker, if you do overshoot your desired temperatures on a ceramic grill, it's just going to take you longer to get that temperature back down and to be able to recover. You can make those adjustments with a Weber Summit and be able to kind of make corrections a little bit easier and faster than you can with the ceramic. But otherwise, I think Kamado Joes, Big Green Eggs, still great grills to have in the arsenal. Getting back to the reverse sear discussion, Wayne says, reverse sear is the only way I cook steak these days. So yeah, and that's common. So like I said, I like to do reverse sear, but sometimes I just like to just sit back and just smoke them. So I like it both ways. Undecked Hydra says, what are your thoughts on cook wood? Whatever wood is available, or buy the big box store wood, packaged wood? This is a good question. My answer is go with what's available and wherever you live. Now, the caveat is that you want to make sure you're cooking with like nut woods or fruit wood. So you don't want to be cooking with like pine, that type of wood. Make sure it's a good wood for cooking, but you will spend a lot more money buying wood at the big box store. And also, depending on who the manufacturer is, that wood might be super dried out, so it might burn just really, really hot and fast on you. My recommendation would be to find a tree servicing company that's local to you, a company that goes out when someone needs to have their tree cut down. They go out and they cut down the trees. A lot of those companies will also sell cooking wood, and I have found that it is much more economical to buy your wood from a tree servicing company than it is buying from a big box store. Big box store, you're going to get just a little bit of wood in a relatively small package at a high price. So definitely go with what's available. Where I live, what tends to be most readily available is oak and pecan. Oak and almond tend to be most readily available. And then sometimes cherry and apple, but those are the two most frequently easy to get. So getting pecan and hickory tends to be a little bit tougher where I am, but I find that don't obsess over the wood flavor, the type of wood. If all you can get is oak and apple, go with it. You'll get great smoke flavor with whatever is available. So that would be my recommendation on that. Wayne says the Weber Smoky Mountain was his first cooker as well, his first smoker. And Wayne says, I used to be a big Weber fanatic, but then I realized that there were so many other options out there. And now I only have the Performer and the Weber Master Touch that I bought for half price at Walmart and have never used. That's another thing that I have come to appreciate about the barbecue world in general. So much competition, so many choices, So these companies are constantly pushing each other, constantly innovating. You just can't come up with maybe a singular good product and then just assume that you're going to be in good shape. If you're in the business of selling grills and smokers, you got to stay on it. I mean, there are just a lot of great choices and a lot of choices depending on how much you want to spend as well. And that's something that I really appreciate. You've got a lot of different choices at the entry level. And then you can get started in barbecue, like I said, for less than $250. You can get a really nice quality, good kettle. And that, even if that's your only grill, you can grill, you can smoke, lots of versatility. If you want to spend $400, $500, you can get probably a really solid pellet grill. You can get a gas grill in that price range, $750 to $1,000. You can get a pellet grill with more options. And once you start to get up over like $1,000, you get into that $1,500 range. Then you're looking at maybe a nice ceramic cooker. Actually, you can probably get a Kamado Joe a little bit less than that, but you're looking at like Kamado Joes, Big Green Eggs, Weber Summit Kamado, and then 2,000 and up, you're getting like a really high-end pellet grill with just a whole lot of options. You start to get into the realm of the good stick burners. I neglected to say that you can get like cheap stick burners under $1,000, but I don't recommend it because it'll just be an exercise in frustration because the temperatures are going to keep being really hard to control because that metal that they use on the cheap offsets is really thin. So don't recommend that. But yeah, if you're going to go stick burner route, 2,000 and up, and just a ton of different options in all those different categories. And that's something I appreciate about barbecue, just a lot of diversity in choices. Wayne says, are there any other cookers that you are looking at and thinking of buying? So no, like I said, I've got too many cookers as it is right now. So I kind of have to really, if I were to buy something else, I'd need to start getting rid of some of the stuff that I have. Like you mentioned, you have a Master Touch that you haven't opened yet. So I've got a couple of cookers stashed at my parents' house. I've got a few in my garage right now that I'm not using. So in my mind, if I were to do something else, it probably would be a stick burner, which would be on the pricey end. Again, that's why that LSG Texas edition caught my eye. I was looking at the Franklin offset smoker, but I just think that it just costs too much. Shirley's always something that I would think about, Jumbo. So just a lot of different choices out there. But no, I got a daughter that's gonna be in college next year, so I have to keep reminding myself that I do not need to be in the market for a new smoker. And John says the Kamado. Yeah, that's a high-end, well-made ceramic cooker. So if you want to go high-end, top level on a ceramic, consider the Kamado. Wayne says, I have found that the store-bought wood is usually kiln dried and really doesn't impart as much flavor as wood that you may source from someone local. I would agree wholeheartedly with that. And then, like I said, you're just not getting good bang for your buck buying from local. And that was one of the mistakes I made when I got started, is I didn't know where I could source wood locally. And I really wanted to try these different types of wood. So yeah, I was buying from Home Depot, Lowe's, Ace Hardware. So yeah, definitely don't recommend going that route if you can avoid it. Mark says, any change in recommendation in smoker if smoking fattier types such as mackerel, lamb, duck, or goose? So any change in recommendation in smoker. So my first thought is Not really. I don't think it's not really the smoker that's going to make a difference, because generally if you're smoking, you're basically looking to keep your temperatures, typically it's like 225 to 275, maybe 300, maybe you'll go as low as 180, but usually your smoking temperatures are going to be in that range. So if you have a smoker that you can use to keep your temperature in that range, it doesn't really matter. I think what's probably more a decision factor would be the type of wood that you might smoke with, depending on what you're smoking. There's some woods are gonna go better than others. Oak is pretty neutral. I think oak is pretty good with just about anything. Mesquite is really powerful, really strong. So I think you really got to know what you're doing smoking with mesquite. You don't want to, especially I think on maybe some poultry. I think that might be a rough combination, but I know some of these high-end expert pit masters, especially down there in Texas, they're smoking with mesquite all the time and producing some great food. So I think for me, that would be more the consideration than necessarily the type of smoker. Undecked Hydra said, it's not mentioned a lot, but I currently use a PK360 grill and really like the results. I would recommend for grilling, smoking, limited space, but really nice. Yeah, I agree. I have a PK360 and it's very versatile. I think it is an outstanding option, an alternative to consider to the Weber Kettles, PK360. It's very well built. You get that temperature locked in. Again, it's going to have some limited cooking space. I would agree with that. And also for smoking, what I have found with the PK360, like if I'm smoking a brisket or a pork butt, this cook is going to take a long time and you're going to have your meat off to one side and you're going to concentrate your fuel source on the other side. So of course you're going to have less capacity for your charcoal. So you're probably going to have to replenish at some point during the cook. And I do enjoy cooking with my PK360. So that would definitely be another one worthy of consideration. Wayne says, I need to get rid of some too. I think I have around 18 cookers. Some I have not used in a while. So I think you've got me beat, Wayne. I want to say when I did my last count, I think I had around 15. Probably need to count them again, but I think I'm around 15. But yeah, and I feel bad sometimes because I have some that I don't use often. I know I have like a Weber, I think it's the Weber Jumbo. I think is what it's called. It's one of their smaller kettles, really designed to be portable, and I have not used it a single time. I guess when you get that barbecue bug, we can't resist a deal if we do see one, and we're always thinking about how much fun it is to cook on these different grills. Now, here's Angel says, I thought my husband was bad and he only has 3. No, he's done a good job of keeping that under control if he's only got 3. It's hard to pass up a good deal on a good smoker or grill. And Wayne says, Jumbo Joe. Yeah, that's what it's called, Jumbo Joe. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got that Jumbo Joe at a going out of business sale, so I didn't pay full price for it, but still haven't used it. My thought it was always, I'll get something portable. If we have a family gathering at a park or something, I'll take it there, or maybe I'll take it to my parents' house. All right, guys, so we've had a good, great conversation. I do appreciate you guys tuning in and providing feedback. That's really how I keep this thing going. Love talking to all of you. Feel free to check out the website and let me know. Give me your thoughts, your feedback. Love hearing from you guys there. BackyardSmokemaster.com. And then Wayne says, I used to take the Jumbo Joe on vacation. That was my mindset. I'd be taking it with me all over the place. And thank you, Wayne. Appreciate you tuning in, appreciating you chiming in with comments. Thank you, Angel. Thank you, Undecked Hydra. Appreciate the super chat and appreciate you tuning in. And I hope you tune in more in the future as well. I loved hearing from you and getting questions from you. Also got comments, let's see, from Mark, from John. So appreciate all of you guys. Again, get out there, enjoy your grills, your smokers. It helps you get out and appreciate your backyard. Appreciate your support. So this is Kenyatta Robinson signing off. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.